It is 10:40 in the morning on September 28, 2019. The port of Ulsan, South Korea, is humming with activity. The 600-foot chemical tanker STOLT GROENLAND is moored quietly at Yompo-Quay. Directly overhead, unsuspecting commuters are driving across the Ulsan Grand Bridge, unaware that a massive chemical tanker is reaching its breaking point. For 56 days, the crew has been crossing the Pacific Ocean, believing their cargo is stable. They have relied on a stowage plan approved by sophisticated software, shoreside personnel, and veteran officers. All of them have missed a critical variable. Heat transfer is moving through the steel walls of the ship towards a dangerous cargo. At 10:43, a white vapor begins to scream out of the pressure relief valve on Tank 9 starboard. 2 minutes later, alarms shriek on the bridge. The pressure inside the tank spikes to nearly 30 psi. The steel deck bulges from the intense pressure and then rips open. The resulting explosion sent a fireball towering over the bridge deck, scorching the pavement. But this wasn't just an accident. It was a repeat performance. 2 weeks earlier, a sister ship faced the exact same crisis, but the warning was never sent. The STOLT GROENLAND and the flag state were kept in the dark. To understand why this happened, we have to look inside the STOLT GROENLAND. She is a chemical tanker designed to carry over 43,000 tons of different chemicals. On this voyage, departing from Houston, Texas, the ship is loaded with 20 different cargoes, 6 of which were heated. In Tank 9 port, on the left side of the ship, they load HMD, a thick, viscous chemical that acts similar to melted wax. If it gets cold, it solidifies. To keep it pumpable, the crew must actively heat it and maintain a temperature between 113 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit. In Tank 9 starboard, on the far right side, they load nearly 500,000 gallons of Styrene Monomer. Styrene is the opposite of HMD. It is heat-sensitive and effectively wants to become solid plastic. As it becomes plastic, it releases heat, which leads to runaway polymerization. To prevent this, it is treated with a chemical inhibitor called TBC. But TBC has a critical weakness. It breaks down when exposed to heat. If it gets above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, it will die off rapidly and allow the styrene to begin runaway polymerization. The ship departs Houston on August 17th. The temperature in the Gulf of America is a sweltering 90 degrees. Even without artificial heating, the cargoes are already warm. As the STOLT GROENLAND transits the Panama Canal and crosses the Pacific, the crew faithfully tends to the HMD in the port tank. They run steam through the heating coils continuously for 2 days and then turn them off for 5 days, cycling the heat to keep that cargo at a steady 120 degrees. But the heat doesn't stay put. It radiates outward. Through the stainless steel bulkheads, the energy migrates into the center tank. The adiponitrile in the middle begins to warm up, eventually reaching 110 degrees. And from there, that center tank begins radiating heat itself. It slowly passes the heat into Tank 9 starboard. The styrene, sitting quietly in the dark, begins to cook. When the cargo was loaded, the certificate stated the inhibitor would last for 60 to 90 days. But that calculation assumed a temperature of 85 degrees or lower. By the time the ship reaches Kobe, Japan, the styrene is already sitting at 90 degrees. The hotter it becomes, the less effective the inhibitor is, which in turn allows the styrene to heat up further. Unknown to the crew, a dangerous feedback loop is underway. Just a few weeks prior, the same situation occurred on her sister ship, the STOLT FOCUS. The Focus had loaded the exact same cargo from the exact same facility in Houston. The crew of the Focus, however, noticed something wrong. They saw the temperature of their styrene rising unexpectedly and concluded drastic action was needed. The crew on the STOLT FOCUS went into emergency mode. They realized their inhibitor was dead, and to stop the ship from exploding, they made a calculated, desperate decision. They flooded the cargo tank with seawater. This diluted and cooled down the chemical, ruining the expensive cargo but saving the ship. From my perspective as a deck officer, this was undoubtedly the right decision to make. Decisions like this always receive pushback and sadly are sometimes career-ending. It is fantastic when a captain remains focused on the lives at stake rather than potential repercussions. This event on the STOLT FOCUS was a major near miss of the highest order. Yet, the company did not consider it a marine incident and failed to convey the incident to their flag state or fleet of around 100 tankers. As a result, the STOLT GROENLAND sailed on, completely unaware that their sister ship had just fought for its life against the exact same cargo they were carrying. September 28th, South Korea. The STOLT GROENLAND is moored and next to her the tanker Bodalion is tied up and preparing for a ship-to-ship transfer. Inside Tank 9 starboard, the styrene has gone thermal. The temperature hits 150 degrees Fahrenheit. The chemical reaction is now a runaway. It is generating its own heat and creating a feedback loop that cannot be stopped. At 10:43, the pressure builds so high that the relief valves lift as designed. Witnesses on the Bodalion see a massive plume of white gas erupting from the Groenland's deck. It is a flammable and vaporized plastic gas. On the bridge of the Groenland, the alarms go haywire. First, the high-level alarm at 95% full. Then, almost instantly, the high-level alarm at 98% full. As heat increases, the liquid is expanding fast and running out of room. At 10:50, the tank is at capacity and the pressure hits nearly 30 psi. The tank violently ruptures and the steel deck tears open. The friction of the tearing metal creates a spark which ignites the flammable gases. A massive fireball erupts, shooting hundreds of feet into the air and licking the underside of the Ulsan Grand Bridge. The force of the blast blows the gangway watchman over the railing and into the water. Dazed, he climbed up over a fender and onto the quay. Meanwhile, the chief mate activated the fire alarm while the crew mustered at their fire stations. The deck foam monitors were also activated and directed towards the cargo manifold. However, it was futile due to the intensity of the fire and the thick black smoke. The master ordered everyone to the lifeboat station. The crew used the freefall lifeboat to safely abandon the tanker. The fire burnt for over 6 hours, and it took 700 emergency responders and over 100 fire trucks, pumps, and ships to extinguish it. The bridge windows were blown out, the deck was warped, and the cargo manifolds melted. Miraculously, thanks to the crew's quick evacuation, there were no fatalities. Soon after, the vessel was declared a total loss and sold for scrap. The investigation revealed a cascade of errors. First, the stowage software iStow did not calculate heat transfer between tanks. It simply checked if adjacent cargoes were chemically compatible. Second, the crew believed that styrene was a relatively benign cargo and they didn't need to monitor and log its temperature. And finally, most of all, it was the company's silence regarding the same issue on the STOLT FOCUS. Had the company sent a single email warning of the hazards, the Groenland crew would have checked their temps, seen the rise, and jettisoned the cargo before it exploded. The STOLT GROENLAND disaster was caused by a stowage plan that did not account for heat transfer and a company culture where a sister ship's close call was treated as an isolated incident rather than a fleet-wide emergency. The cost of that silence was a fireball that nearly took down a major bridge and several lives. The lesson is clear. Near misses must be reported and transmitted to all vessels, especially when the company has a fleet of around 100 vessels. The maritime industry is dangerous and relies on shared knowledge to keep everyone safe. As an unlimited tonnage deck officer, I believe the company was negligent in not reporting the STOLT FOCUS incident. What do you think? Support more deep dives into marine casualties by subscribing and hitting the thumbs up. Stay safe out there.